So here's a question for you. Do you feel anxious about COVID, anxious about post-elections, anxious about the economy, environment, life in general? Of course you do. Everybody feels anxious now more than ever before, and that's why we're talking about anxiety. This is my second conversation on anxiety. I am Baruch Halevi, co-founder of Soul Centered. Soul Centered is a spiritual center for meaning, for purpose, and for healing, for anybody in the afternoon of life. The afternoon of life is midlife and beyond, the second half of life, which can be the most important, impactful, inspirational time of our life if we can find new ways to navigate it. And one of those ways is to rethink anxiety. The first conversation we had in the previous video was all about reframing anxiety, naming it, taming it, facing it, embracing it. I'm good with the rhymes. But I wasn't even actually going to do a second part, but I got a bunch of emails saying, want more on anxiety. Why? Because everybody's so anxious and everybody feels alone in their anxiety. I work with clients all day, every day. I'm a logotherapist, a meaning-centered psychotherapist. I help people find their way through the afternoon of life, all of what life has to present, especially those pivotal moments, those challenging moments, even tragic moments. Anxiety, all kinds of anxiety in us. And people feel alone in that. They feel like they're the first to ever have had anxiety. They know that's not true, but there's this part of our society still where we're not allowed to talk about it. We really don't share about the darker emotions. Anxiety and depression and all kinds of darker emotions seem to be still taboo, off limits. And so I almost am like in my old job, I'm a rabbi, I'm almost holding a confessional for people so that they can bear the truth of what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, what they're going through. They need a place to share it. And we talk about so often anxiety. And it's gotten me thinking about just how misunderstood anxiety really is. So many great men and women throughout history have struggled with the darker emotions like depression, like anxiety. Great men and women. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was known to have struggled mightily with his depression, known for deep bouts of depression. Isaac Newton was known for his nervous breakdowns and having to deal with that on many occasions. Vincent van Gogh, Beethoven, Winston Churchill, right? Winston Churchill, one of the epitomes of strength and courage of a previous century, is known to have struggled with anxiety and with depression and was very open about it, which is just tremendous to have a figure like that in history who's so open about it. Or Martin Luther King Jr. Over and over, we like to turn to the heroes like Martin Luther King Jr. and only talk about the light, about the positive, not about the struggles. This was a real man with real struggles, and he wasn't great in spite of those struggles with depression. Right? Depression to the point where he probably could have and should have been checked into a psychiatric unit just prior to his death. He didn't want to, and so he didn't. But nothing wrong with admitting it and dealing with it and facing it. This was a great man, not in spite of those struggles, because of them, because he faced them and was honest about them and dealt with them. I turn to wisdom texts oftentimes for wisdom and direction in my own life. And look at the wisdom text, one of the most profound wisdom texts of all time, the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, where I draw a lot of my insights. If you look at one of the reasons why the Torah, the Bible, is so profound is because it's the first wisdom text in recorded history that didn't just record the successes, the strengths of its leaders, its protagonists. It recorded failures, flaws, warts and all. Moses is portrayed as this larger than life, perfect human being, but that wasn't Moses. Moses had a speech impediment. Moses had a security or an insecurity challenge, constantly insecure about his abilities, his skills, his worthiness of getting the job done, of leading the Israelites from slavery to freedom. Over and over again, he expresses these doubts to the divine, to the Creator herself. Jacob is a figure in the Bible that is constantly dealing with fear. Over and over again, he asks God, the divine, to promise Jacob that God will be with Jacob, that God won't abandon Jacob, that he won't be left in the darkness. Jacob's key moments in his life take place in the darkness, when it's dark out, which is a metaphor for his inner darkness, and the wrestling that this man goes through with his demons. Literally, we read about Jacob one night wrestling with, we're not sure if it's angels or if it's his brother Esau or if it's himself. I tend to think it's himself, his inner demons, his struggles, his fears, his anxiety, maybe his depression. Jacob spends the night wrestling, and he becomes Yisrael. His name is changed from Jacob to Israel, a person who wrestles with God and prevails. It isn't that he prevailed in the sense that he beat God. It's the sense that he saw it through to the break of day, that he saw the dark night of the soul through, came out the other side, and kept moving forward, not without consequences, not without struggles. It says for the rest of Jacob's life, he limped. The people I know who deal with anxiety and with depression don't tend to get over it. They tend to learn how to harness it and to use it, to not be used by it. And that's exactly what we are here to do and need to do. We need to harness our anxiety, harness our depression, harness our dark emotions, anger, whatever they might be, and use them and not be used by them. That's the work that we are here to do. And if you are struggling with anxiety or with depression or with the other dark deeds, all kinds of them that I talk about that bring up these feelings of fear and unworthiness and uncertainty within us, if you are grappling with them, good for you. Keep grappling, keep facing them, and know that they don't make you smaller because you have them, and they don't make you weak. I love this Nietzsche quote. Verily, I have often laughed at the weaklings who thought themselves good because they had no claws, right? Those dark feelings that you have are your claws. What makes you good is not the fact that you don't have these challenges, that you continue to face them, to use them, and to not be used by them. Great men and women throughout history have grappled with these issues. If you are grappling with them, you are not alone. You are in good company. And they are ultimately part of your path here to help you grow. Learn how to harness these darker emotions, and that's what I do. I work with clients to help them face it, to embrace it, to feel it, to heal it, to use the darker emotions, to not be used by them, so that you can move forward in your life with meaning and with purpose and with inspiration. You can learn more about me, Baruch Halevi. You can learn more about Soul Centered at mysoulcentered.org. Thank you for tuning in.